And now, a poem for this joyous occasion of love. Roses are red, violets are blue. I love you, and the wee you. Well, it's Valentine's Day. For some, today will mean spending time with a loved one, sharing chocolates, and admiring some last minute store bought roses. As for me, however, well, I've been too busy, studying to find an adequate partner. Well, since I'm going to be spending this day of love at home, reading, alone, this, hmm, this really is my life. Huh. You know what? I think I'm going to try to distract myself from my personal failings by reviewing a romance manga. But which one to choose? Oh, I know. How about a shoujo title to mix things up? Claudine is a notable title from Ryoko Ikeda, who is one of the most famous shoujo manga artists of all time. Claudine was published in two installments of the shoujo magazine Weekly Margaret in January of 1978. The edition of Claudine I read was the 2018 Seven Seas Entertainment release, translated by Jocelyn Allen. Now, this manga has gained significant recognition in recent years due to its main character being transgender and focusing on his personal struggles that come as a result of it. As I stated earlier, the creator of this manga, Ryoko Ikeda, is one of the most famous shoujo manga artists of all time, and is a member of the legendary Year 24 group, which I'll have to cover in a video of its own someday. Her most famous work is 1972's The Rose of Versailles, which went on to be highly influential in the history of shoujo manga. It pioneered trends with its ambiguously gendered characters, its challenging of, at the time, socially accepted sexual relationships in manga, and its framing in a historical setting. Ikeda, born in Osaka on December 18, 1947, began to create manga while studying at the Tokyo University of Education. Her professional debut came about in 1967 with Bara Yashiki no Shoujo. From there, she continued to publish manga, but again, her big success came about in 1972 with The Rose of Versailles, which was published in Weekly Margaret until 1973. The story of this particular title just doesn't end with the manga, however. Rose was so successful that in 1974, it was turned into a stage musical performed by one of the biggest theatrical groups in all of Japan, the Takarazuka Review. It was also turned into both a live-action film and an anime in 1979. Akira continued to publish manga regularly, and landed another major hit in 1975 with The Window of Orpheus, first serialized in Weekly Margaret, then Monthly 17 until 1981. Towards the end of the 1980s, however, her output began to slow down, instead wanting to focus on other ventures. But in the 1990s, she returned to the industry as a manga writer. As I mentioned earlier, Claudine is a significant manga because it is one of the first shoujo titles to feature a transgender main character. Claudine is set in France during the early 20th century and tells the story of Claudine, who is the child and the apple of the eye of a local aristocratic family. Claudine, who is born a woman, identifies as a man, and the story starts with him as a child visiting a psychiatrist who will serve as the narrator for the rest of the story. The manga follows his life as he grows up and the various love problems that comes about due to his gender identity. As a teenager, Claudine falls in love with a family named Marua, but they are separated after Claudine's parents find out about their love. From there, things get worse, with Claudine falling in love with another woman who completely rejects him, and then the death of his father. So, will Claudine find love, and will he ever be fully accepted for how he is? Well, to find out the answer to all of these questions, you're just going to have to read the manga for yourself. When it comes to shoujo manga, one of its most distinctive and defining characteristics is the art, and Claudine is no exception. The art is gorgeous and is very dreamy and ethereal looking with its addition of flowers and sparkles in the emotional moments. Another one of the most striking features of shoujo manga from the 70s is the unique panel layouts. The manga does not follow a standard panel layout. Typically on a page, there will be smaller individual boxes within a page that contains a larger piece of art. The panels may also overlap or take on more abstract shapes. This layout helps to make the manga way more dramatic and dynamic, especially during the intense dramatic scenes. Akita also draws these intense scenes in a way that really helps to sell the emotion and keeps it interesting, which I really loved. Moving on, I liked the designs of the characters. Claudine's design was especially good, being both masculine and yet feminine at the same time, which fits perfectly with the character. The other character designs were also pretty good, especially in regards to their costuming. A lot of detail and attention was put into the fashion of the characters, which is another major feature of shoujo manga. Shoujo manga titles will typically be filled with full body shots of characters, done in order to accentuate and show off the costuming of the character. And the same is true for Claudine. Speaking of which, Akita has also put a lot of care and attention into the backgrounds of the manga. Being set in the early 20th century of France, the architecture of the buildings feel very accurate and fits in very well, helping the setting and time period feel genuine. The vehicle designs, however, were not done as well. The cars look bad, and this train is completely wrong for the time period. But these are all very small negative hits against the art. Besides that, the art is absolutely stunning, and it is incredibly interesting to look at. As for the story, it was good for the most part, but it does have some problems. The first half of the manga was well paced, but in the second half, the story feels rushed. There is not as much time devoted to development, and it hampers the story quite a bit. The romance, for instance, in the second half doesn't have as much build up and feels underdeveloped, such as Shielin's relationship with Claudine and Andrew. Also, there is a twist in the middle of the manga that I won't give away, but it just sort of happens out of nowhere. Finally, in terms of negatives, the manga also tries to go with a bit of a comedic tone with the character of Mayura, but it is completely abandoned after she leaves the story. Getting into positives, the actual story itself is highly interesting. The internal conflicts that Claudine feels and undergoes throughout the work helps to keep the story interesting. Now, it is a pretty standard love triangle story, but don't let that make you write this manga off. It really is interesting. The drama of the story is amazing, and it takes a pretty wild turn of events in the middle, which help to keep it interesting. I felt that the unrealized love of one of the characters made for a wonderful addition to the manga, which again adds interesting drama to it. Finally, the ending of the manga was alright, considering the type of story that it is. It's nothing too mind-blowing or really that unexpected, but it still made for an okay ending. Overall, I really love the art. It is absolutely stunning and visually interesting to look at. The first half of the manga is really solid, but in the second half it feels a bit rushed. Even though it may be a bit rushed, the drama in the manga is quite good and the story was interesting. It is truly a standout work of shoujo manga from the 1970s for its LGBTQ plus themes, even if the actual story itself has some pacing problems. That's why I'm going to be giving Claudine by Iyoko Ikeda a 7 out of 10. And that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you agree with what I had to say about Claudine by Iyoko Ikeda. If you haven't read any shoujo manga before, I would highly recommend that you check it out because it could be very interesting. And I think that Claudine would be a really good place to start. Anyway, I hope to see you on this channel again real soon. Goodbye.